Welcome to 360 Culture with Premier Teaching and Learning. Today, I have with me Amy Blankenship. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Amy is amazing. Let me just say, I keep saying my people are amazing because they are. Amy has been teaching for years. She's a veteran teacher in Ohio and a K-12 administrator. She has a lot on her plate. She's currently using her skills to support other teachers and instructional coaches. Her position requires her to do professional development. She's a building staff leader. She works with teachers and works with different grade levels. She does a lot, you guys. She manages the needs of gifted and talented learners too in the building. That is a lot. During her career, it's been so challenging, but also very rewarding, she says. And she is planning to open another elementary building focusing on STEM, which is amazing. So welcome, Amy.
Hi, good to see you.
So we're so excited. So today it looks like you're going to present the Invisible Backpack, dealing with stress and anxiety in staff and students. We are so excited about that topic.
I'm very excited about it too. And it's a very important topic because it's something that affects us and has been affecting us more and more in our society. And now even with the pandemic, it's increased it. So hopefully this presentation will not only give some strategies and support for administrators to use with their staff, but then the staff can turn around and use a lot of these strategies with their students.
Good. Good. I'm very excited. So let's begin.
Okay. So I have a few goals here. The first one is, of course, to walk away with the current increase of the stress and anxiety that kids and adults suffer today, to know what it can look like. It looks like a variety of things depending on whether you're an adult, whether you're a child, and everybody exhibits their symptoms differently. And we're also going to learn how to recognize it in each other, maybe even in ourselves, self-regulate and reduce it. And hopefully you will be able to walk away with this PowerPoint presentation so that you will have all the links and the ideas and strategies. I don't really claim to be like an expert or have my own strategies that I've developed, but I am constantly looking for things out there, and so I'm going to share a lot of work from different experts.
I'm excited because right now, especially in our school building, many teachers go through just mental, I guess, I don't want to call it illness, just as our mental capacity, but we go through it alone. And so I often don't want our teachers to suffer in silence. So finding ways to, I guess, identify it or support them, I'm all in.
Yes, me too, completely, because it's something that's kind of been a little bit taboo. Like you say, you don't want to say mental illness. Sometimes I call it mental differences. And I am a sufferer of anxiety and have been since I was a kid, but I didn't recognize it as anxiety. So being vocal about it and talking about it can reduce some of it in itself. So, all right. So kids come to school, staff comes to school with what I call the invisible backpack. I mean, you have all your supplies and stuff, but you also can come to school with fear and stress, self-doubt, any of these things that I've mentioned here. Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein wrote this article that I've linked in here, which I'm not going to go into and read. I know you can read it on your own, but it says that 25% of all 13 to 18-year-olds have mild to moderate anxiety, and the median onset age is 11 years. Crazy. So when we think about kids, older kids saying, oh, I'm stressed, and adults saying I'm stressed, even the little ones are stressing because their lives are so much more complicated than they were when you or I went to school. So it's important to read about that to understand a little bit, and also that it can look different. You can have children that have what seem to be anger issues or oppositional issues, and sometimes it's just stress. they just don't manifest it the same way as adults do because they don't know what to do with their feelings yet. And they also don't know how to verbalize because we haven't taught them to verbalize. Okay. And relationships with students allow for the teacher and the child to have a better understanding of each other. And the thing that's important with that is not only for that stress and anxiety or social emotional, but then the closer that relationship you have, either as an admin with your staff or a teacher with your students, that's also going to increase your ability to teach, to get deep with the child as far as their needs. I know that's very difficult if you're a high school teacher or college teacher because your kids are cycling in and out. You don't have the same face time that you get when you're an elementary student. I had, and I also linked an article in here about instrumental versus reciprocal focus on relationships. And it's very interesting because that instrumental is kind of like when you stand at the front of the class and you teach and you're giving out your information, and that reciprocal is when you're having some back and forth with a student, which of course will help you get to know them better. So there's an article there. And then for the teacher administrative, like resources that you might want to look at, if you're an administrator, Dare to Lead is absolutely fabulous by Brene Brown, and she has a lot of like blogs and things you can follow on Instagram. And also, Elena Aguilar is wonderful. I first started with her book, The Art of Coaching, which really, really helped me to build those relationships that we're talking about with the people that you're supporting. So there's not that whole like, oh, they're coming to get me, they're coming to get me. And Onward is a wonderful resource that a lot of schools use, and there's a lot of things set up. I'm sure even if you like looked at Pinterest, there's school districts that focus, because it's a book that takes you month by month through the school year, and it focuses on how to, as an adult, relieve some of those stresses, anxieties, self-care, talking. It teaches so many things, and some of those things too can trickle down to students. Okay.
No, I totally agree. And these are all great resources. And, just thinking about, my own practices is how I push in, how I support students, and so I'm thinking from a student perspective, a teacher-student perspective, maybe 3 times I engage with students throughout the day. And I kind of think of what are my personal connections that I have with students and how can I build on that? So I keep saying like morning meeting, that's a way, throughout the day, some type of programming that I have and, meeting, or how can I build it with students in groups, things like that. And then how, as an adult, as a coach, and what does that look like? And, maybe a massage day. I remember one of my coaches, they had actually a masseuse come in and give 15-minute massages to our teachers. And, just thinking of all those kind of cool things that we can do, and it's cost effective, but we can do, and we can support our teachers in different ways.
Exactly. And a lot of the chiropractic facilities will come and do those 15-minute massages for free, because it then exposes their business to, you could have a huge staff. I think we have like 68 or 70 people in our building. That's a huge promotion right there for your business. So a lot of times you can get them to come in for free and it doesn't cost anything. So
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to build those relationships. Like you said, those check-ins. There was a fabulous video, which of course I can't find, at TED Talks. It was a high school teacher who talked about how he decided to incorporate a digital check-in system with kids every day. And his friend was more techie than he was. It wasn't a teacher, but helped him with this sign-in. And he said it was amazing the things that kids said to him and told him in that check-in. It gave him some of that food like you're talking about, to make that connection, to build that relationship. So if they're talking about something that's happening at home or something that's stressing them, or a sports or activity, anything, then you can bring that up. One of the things I always connect with kids is I love to play video games. So I can get right in there and, connect with them that way. That's my secret.
Yeah.
Okay. So he did it digitally, and it really helped improve his relationships and therefore the teaching and learning part and the social emotional. I mean, you're getting all of that through that development of relationship. And he did the check-in every day for every class that came through because it was electronic. You can set it up a lot of times in your either your platform, your learning platform that you have at school, where it will actually like filter. You can filter it to go right into Excel spreadsheet, so it'll sort it for you. I have a couple of ideas right here. If you have younger kids, or you can ask kids. I've had teachers that ask kids, what would you rather do, an online or an actual physical thing? And these on the physical are kind of where the child comes in and checks in, like moves their stick somewhere, or put something on a Post-it note or underneath the Post-it note too, because they want it to be private. Just letting them know how they're feeling. On the bottom there that says, today I'm feeling, with the emojis, that's actually can be moved throughout the day. So that would sit at a child's desk rather than just that walk-in, how are you doing? I've also done reflection papers with students where we might finish a unit and I'll say, you know, how do you feel about the unit? How much did you put into it? Because I want them to become self-regulators. I want them to be responsible and own their own learning instead of feeling like it's being thrown at them. Because then they're going to engage and they're going to feel like they are a decision maker, which they should be. So in those reflections, I can pull those back, and I have had kids that put the minimal effort in, even if they're good students, and they'll go back and say, hey, you know, I should have asked this question, or I could have put a little bit more time into this or added this to it to make it better, because I'm always asking them, how are you pushing yourself? Because kids understand how to do that, and so do adults. But just putting it into the context of teaching and learning, it like ahas for them. And on the under the digital ones, teacher pay teacher, which I use sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes it's frowned upon because it's not considered research-based, but sometimes they have cute little things in there. I use Google Forms all the time to take surveys with students, but they actually have like a cute one that you can get for free, the daily check-ins one. Below it was kind of like one that I put in there where I ask questions and allow students to leave comments. Now, on top of that, you got to think about, how do I have my little ones know, or how do I teach them and then move into the older kids so that they can understand? Because you can ask kids how they're feeling, especially when they're little. They might not know what those feelings look like. So sometimes a lot of visuals, picture books, discussions. In general, even if you saw some sort of interaction in the classroom, you can then go back and revisit that kind of in a general sense a few days later, so they don't think that you're talking about them. So
No, I'm really geeking out right now. Like, we should have been doing this, you know, even at the college level, and thinking, how are my students grappling with the content? You know, something simple. I love the emoji stickers. Like, you know, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about this content? And then give me a quick emoji. You know, we could do that. Why aren't we doing that more, especially at the institutional college level?
yeah.
Even for my littles, I mean, how, you know, how am I making sure that the content is relevant? Am I checking in on students to make sure I'm meeting those instructional needs? So yes, I'm geeking out over here. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And again, going back to just the reflection sheets, because I have to write goals sometimes for students.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's hard to write a measurable goal, especially when you're dealing with things like this. But if you have those reference sheets, and I give them a paper copy or a typed version, where then I have that, and I can even sit down with them and say, see how much you've grown. I put some emojis like, how did you feel about this unit or this topic? And then they pick, and then, because they love the emojis, that hooks them in right away.
Oh yeah.
And to reflect.
I can definitely see that. And, you know, even like thinking about what their confidence level is in like math, you know, one of those contents that some students don't feel comfortable. I think we can even like go into the self-esteem part about it. So yes, I love it.
Yes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on too. This is an expert, 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞, and she's a website called With Understanding Comes Calm. She focuses a lot on what we call twice exceptional kids. So they might have two things going on. So they might have a learning disability and also ADHD or anxiety or some form of autism. So it's two things going on, which is really hard to teach and learn and overcome. But her key points are to be curious. Be curious about your own children. Be curious about your staff. Be self-aware. And if your response, this is the hardest thing for us as teachers, if your response isn't changing the behavior, you need to go back and figure out what is causing the behavior. I cannot stress that enough. Because we try to find a system like a behavior management or I'm feeling better system, and it's never going to work for everybody. So you always have to be curious and notice, pay attention to the things you're seeing from that student, and then go back and reassess the behavior. I'm going to talk next about giving your staff and students a safe place to talk to you. And that's after, of course, the food, sleep, and exercise. Those are huge for kids and for adults. If you're not getting enough sleep, you are going to be having social, emotional, stress, anxiety issues. It's just a fact. I mean, it's just something that people need. So that's something that you could talk with a staff member about, but it's also something you might talk to parents about if students are struggling. I know a lot of kids that take ADHD medicine, which I'm not saying is good or bad. I'm just saying that sometimes that affects their sleep at night a little bit. So it's just something to check in about.
So
cover those bases.
Amy, I have a question because when I see give your staff and students a safe place, you know, what are our safe places in the schools, you know, besides for the counselor's office, even for teachers, what are the safe spaces that you know of that people go to where they get that support?
Well, and that's something that I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit as we move on.
Okay.
Safe space is really interesting because safe space doesn't always mean the room that you're in. If I came into your classroom and I'm the administrator and you're the teacher and I say, hey, you know, so-and-so's mom called about you and we're getting all these calls about, you know, you're not being lenient enough with late work or whatever. There could be a million reasons why the teacher is, you know, that way at that moment. And sometimes looking directly at a person, I hate to say this, looking directly at a person to explain can be very intimidating. So when you're talking to your staff or to your students, sometimes having them do something else, like either write a message, just not giving that direct eye contact. So I have a couple of apps on here that might help with that. That can create more of a safe place. And you don't have to have that. If your staff member is very shy, and I have a lot of staff members that have great ideas or have great fears and they're afraid to share that. Maybe there could be, you know, messages back and forth. Write a message back and forth. Have coffee with your principal. Have lunch with your students. I mean, teachers do that all the time. And that's putting it more in a relaxing situation. And if you're having that coffee, it doesn't have to be in the principal's office. It can be in your room, which is probably the safest place for you because you're there most of the time. And it's just a casual thing. That's something I feel is also very hard as coaches and administrators, is that teachers feel like you're after them. Just like students feel like teachers are after them. So those are some of the things that I'm talking about as far as, you know, the safe place. Oh, I don't know. Okay. So here is some of the, talk a little bit more about the safe places. Some of that has to do with what I need. Well, let me first talk about the reducing anxiety. Anxiety is that fight or flight that you have. It's the amygdala in the back of the brain. It's kind of like what we call our caveman brain. As we develop more in the frontal lobes, that can kind of be balanced a little bit better, but especially for kids, they're not quite there yet. That's why they're so impulsive. So going through that stress, just helping kids and adults go through that thinking process. What am I thinking about? Is it true that I always fail? It's going to be hard, but I'm prepared for it. Well, did you study? You know, just talking them through as you're building. And that's a great topic for morning meeting. If your topics for morning meeting focus on all of these things at different times, a few minutes here and there, you're building their understanding of the social emotional of themselves. And then those check-ins, those things you do during the day, they're going to be able to respond better so that you understand them better. And I know that's hard to like think, oh, morning meeting, I'm going to put this in, especially when you're in high school. You don't even go to homeroom class. You go right to your first class. How does a teacher that has to, you know, shift everyone? Maybe it's just one question a day that you work on. What does this mean? Win time is kind of what I need. And that's kind of brainstorming during a quiet moment. That can also include that safe situation. It can help create that safe situation. So maybe if you love snacks, your principal needs to get to know you. I'm bringing down my Cheryl's cookie to share with you, and we're going to have a cup of coffee and just relax it. That's going to help everything be, and there's a whole bunch of different things in here. That's just a suggestion. And then flexibility is anxiety's kryptonite. It's so hard for us to be flexible. Like I said, you know, you have that set behavior management and then it's not working for a child. It's hard to go back in there. But being flexible will help you just go, it's going to be okay. Now, this down in the bottom right is a free app called Happy Feed. And I love this, and teenagers love it, anybody who has a phone, because it asks you every day how you're feeling. And then you put 3 things in there. It can be pictures, it can be words, things that you love, things that you're thankful for. And what I love about it is it gives you notifications. It'll remind you. So you could be having the worst day in the world, and then the picture from 2 years ago of the day you got your new puppy comes up. And you're like, oh, you know, so it's really nice. It's free. It's easy. Kids will engage with that. They like it. They have cell phones. Okay.
I mean, all these ideas are great, you know, especially like, you know, it sounds like it's a little like Facebook where it brings up memories.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So, I mean, that's cool. These are all great resources that we can like fit in our school day. So yeah, I can see what's happening.
For sure. Definitely you can fit them in the days, and then they can do it at any time of the day, even if they're at home, and they can go back and look at their memories too. It's really nice. And it prompts you if you forget, you know, you want to add, what are you thankful for today? That kind of thing. Here's where we're going to talk about a little bit of stress busters. That metacognition and self-regulation, just understanding what you're thinking, what you're feeling, making sure kids, and that's another thing you could do a morning meeting, eating, sleeping, exercising. There's tons of apps and sites with breathing activities. This Zen of coloring is another comfort thing. It is an app that you can get on your phone, or you can provide paper pencil if you want, like it's called the mandala, the black and white pictures where you color in the little is that, and the Zen is very similar to that. If you're talking to somebody who has a hard time making the eye contact or sharing their feelings, they can kind of mindlessly but calmingly work on that coloring game on the app, and they may talk to you more than feel like there's a hot lamp on them.
The big deal in coloring, you know, I guess when, you know, academia is like, what are you doing? Why are you doing coloring? But you know what? At the college level, all of our freshmen, when it comes to finals week, that has been like the #1 go-to for our college students is releasing stress by coloring.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing that we definitely provide with the crayons and the markers and the pencils, and they will just sit for hours and just release stress. And so so there's so much value in just the process, the coloring, the vibration. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you.
I do too. Like, do I think that you say, okay, you know, we're learning about Martin Luther King, let's color a picture? I'm not sure that we're talking about, that's not the same. So I understand where people are like, coloring, but this is just relaxing during a conversation. I know a lot of students like to doodle, and that actually focuses them, especially kids that have trouble with being all over the place, because part of their brain is focusing on keeping the doodling going on, and then they can really focus on what you are saying. And I know we say that that's not possible, but it is at least improving their ability to take it in. This link here can be parents, teachers, admin. These are anxiety kits. There's all kinds of things in here you can make and put in your classroom. It's a link. I don't necessarily have to go there and show that. I don't want to take a lot of time to do that, but you can look at it later. I don't know if you've heard of Lisa Van Gemert. She is been just about every kind of teacher in the world, and she has some great relaxation tools. She has apps. She has activities. She's very big about, and I mentioned that earlier, it's listed earlier in the show, the slide presentation. She is very big about letting kids know what is coming. And that's the same for teachers. Now, I've been sitting here waiting like, what's our back to school plan going to look like? That caused me more anxiety than actually hearing it, even if I didn't like it. You know?
Yeah.
It caused me more anxiety. So she's really good about that kind of thing. And there's all different kinds of activities that you can do to let your kids or your staff know what's coming up. So
No, you don't. It's kind of, that's one of the things that I would love to have is, hey, this is our day. This is what's going to happen today. Any questions about the overall kind of agenda of the school day or agenda of the school year? And you're right. It does cause me anxiety because I'm trying to figure out how am I going to do my family? What are my kids going to do when I have to be at school and they're on e-learning? What does this look like? And so I get this. I definitely get that, you know, telling us what's coming or what the agenda or their thoughts.
And she tends to do it kind of in a funny way. So if you were an admin and you were doing it with your staff, you know, and you were going to teach about, I don't know, if you're going to learn that day about the drills, the lockdown drills, you know, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit with like a funny picture or something like silly, or, you know, even though it's a serious topic, that kind of like helps you you think about it a little bit because it's engaging you. And she does that for kids as well, for, you know, if they're going to learn fractions or they're going to learn algebraic equations, whatever it is that's coming up, she'll have like a funny little thing that she makes where she actually hangs it up. So you see it, and it's not a timeline. It's not like a list of reading agenda. It's more picture related, and it's just nice. It's just refreshing, I can say.
That is neat. I mean, because laughter really lowers the affective filter and makes people want to, you know, feel less stress.
Exactly, exactly. And my last page is just, you know, the references to what I have. All of the links are live links, and I have checked them. Some of them I've used in different places. I've talked about this topic with admin, with superintendents before, and with teachers as well, and actually with parents. I did it at our one community that we have in our district. So I've talked about this topic a lot, and I've changed things as I go along, and I'm always open to questions. So I have my email here, my personal home email, if anybody has any questions.
No, this is amazing. And like I told you, Amy is amazing. And feel free to reach out to her, and we'll definitely provide the link because she has so much to offer and so much to provide. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, what's in that link? Go back 2 slides. I want to know. I'm excited about, you said the kids, it said kids something.
Oh yeah. It's stuff you can make, which of course we always have to.
That one.
Yeah. The anxiety kit. So, and it doesn't just, yeah, let's see. So there's some of the things right there. It's like, it's funny, but even like, if you have a student that's really, really stressed, and it's a girl and bring in a bottle of nail polish, let her paint her nails, you know, like, why not? It doesn't we got to think outside the box with this. So there's things in here like a thing you can smell, there's a kaleidoscope, there's the, you know, squeeze ball things. And then there's also a thing here that has a bunch of different cards in it as far as like things that will relax you, hum a song. Yes, I'm quite the singer. So that's, the kids know that I will sing all the time. So it shows you how to make these things. Lavender scented Play-Doh, Rescue Remedy, Rescue Gum. Letting kids chew gum, it's okay. That's also a focus thing. Your brain's doing that thing like the Zen of coloring, and then, you know, so The Way I Feel, that's a book probably for younger kids. And then there's sound therapy. There's also the little mini massagers. You know, it could be a battery one, but it also could be those little ones you rub on your head. It looks like a hand. So there's stuff in there to do. So, and then this one, Lisa, she is hilarious. She makes me laugh really hard. She talked about, she used to have like a fake contest for something. It was for like orange juice or something that she had the kids go through, and they loved it. And it was just this fake contest, but it like built their esteem. They came back and they're like, oh yes, I came in first in the contest. She'd say it was national. Stress management strategies in here, like how to engage your parasympathetic nervous system. There's all kinds of stuff in here. He has an appreciation garden, a body scan, deep relaxation, magical room, restful sleep, safe place. And then there's UCLA links down here for mindfulness, self-compassion. So she's got a ton of stuff on here as well.